Okay, so many people have a very diluted view of the universe and the world around them. However, we can cut through this cloud of delusion if we just use science. So, as a scientist, I often encourage people to view the world in a different way, to think more deeply about the things that they see. So first, I'll discuss the problems of science education as of right now, and then I'll discuss the solution to these problems, and finally I'll discuss the consequences of whether we implement it or not. Okay? So why is this important? Well, because science is the poetry of reality. Okay? First problem is religion. Religion is like the knife at the throat of a very weak scientific establishment in the United States. Okay? According to Voltaire, it is difficult to free fools from the chains they revere. So people are stuck to this sort of dogma of religion, and that deludes their view of the universe. Specifically, I'm talking about the religion based on a Judeo-Christian God, because this is the words of the 14th Dalai Lama. It says we must conduct research, then accept the results. If they don't stand up to experimentation, Buddha's own words must be rejected. So Buddhists don't really have a problem with science, right? So this is very, very scary to me. How many of you guys have read The Crucible or have seen the play? Right? I find that very, very scary, because these are people that are deluded by their view of the world. They are stuck in this sort of box created by religion. And they hang people as a result for things that are frivolous. This is Richard Dawkins. He's a prominent biologist. He says, I am against religion because it teaches us to be satisfied with not understanding the world. Right? We see things, like let's say an earthquake happens. Right? If you're religious, say, God did it. You don't even bother to think about it. But here he's saying that we need to question about why it happened and how we can even change the outcomes. Next one. This is Golar's cross. He says, a universe without purpose should neither depress us nor suggest that our lives are purposeless. Right? So, through an awe-inspiring cosmic history, we find ourselves on the remote planet in a remote corner of the universe, endowed with intelligence and self-awareness. We should not despair, but should humbly rejoice in making the most of these gifts and celebrate our brief moment in the sun. And this is Bill O'Reilly. He says, we can't explain it, God did it. This is a very simplistic view of the universe. And if people keep on propagating these ideas, then they stand in the way of progress. Okay. Next problem. And if you have any questions about whether religion encourages us to give charity, we can see here homeless man, and there we have all the religions and who has donated the most. And of course we can see that the atheists have more money than all the other religions. Atheists and agnostics. Okay, next one. Society. Societal rejection of science. Right? People often, view scientists as sort of these nerds, they reject the ideas, and people don't want to listen to it, right? So here's Richard Dawkins again, the biologist. Says it has become almost a cliche to remark that nobody boasts about ignorance of literature, but it is socially acceptable to boast about ignorance of science and proudly claim incompetence in mathematics. Right? There's a problem with that, because we don't encourage people to say that they like math. We don't encourage people to say that they like science, but we should. Carl Sagan. It says every kid starts out as a natural-born scientist, and then we beat it out of them. A few trickle through the system with their wonder and enthusiasm for science intact. Right? What we see with our education system is that it doesn't encourage people to like science. Right? It doesn't, because kids, when they start out, they're very curious, right? They pick up things, sometimes they break things. But our system, or the way our society is shaped, it tells them, first year we teach them how to walk and talk. The next years we teach them to sit down and be quiet. That's something that we shouldn't do, because it crushes their curiosity. The next one, Stephen Hawking, says the greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, it is the illusion of knowledge. So if you think you know a lot, but you don't, then there's enemy of knowledge, because you are willing to reject what is really there, right? So our solution to both of these problems is to improve our education system. And this is our education system as it is right now, right? The man says, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam, please climb that tree. Can all the animals really climb that tree? Not all of them can. Right, this is Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's an astrophysicist. So this is if he were in charge of our education system as it is today. He said, I would teach how science works as much as I would teach what science knows. I would assert that science literacy is the most important kind of literacy they can take into the 21st century. I would undervalue grades based on knowing things and find ways to reward curiosity. In the end, it is the people who are curious that change the world. And we can see that, with Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, their innovative products have changed the way in which we do everything. And our childhood neighbor, Mr. Rogers, says there are so many things to learn about in this world and so many people who can help us learn. And if we sort of close ourselves to learning things, then this whole vast sea of knowledge is closed to us. Okay? And Sir William Paley, obviously the astronomer, Halley's Comet, right? It says, if education would be so much more effective if its purpose were to ensure that by the time they leave school, every boy and girl should know how much they don't know and be imbued with a lifelong desire to learn it. So here, when you graduate, you think, I learned so much, but there's so much still you don't know. And I think that is more important than knowing what you do know. That's okay. So if we don't improve our science education, here's what's going to happen, right? Here, George Carlin says governments don't want a population capable of critical thinking. They want obedient workers